All right, well, it's been quiet for the last few hours in the Gaza periphery, but if this morning's escalation is any indication, the quiet may not last for very long. And here with us now in the studio for more is former IDF spokesperson to the foreign media, Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserves, Peter Lerner. Peter, thank you so much for being with us today. But now we've seen, since the morning, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad is shooting more rockets. This is maybe the biggest escalation, really, since the 2014 Gaza War Protective Edge. Do you see this escalation continuing?
Currently, it looks like we're actually on the down end of this trickling phenomena. It looks like the ceasefire is mostly holding. The reality is one that when negotiations are taking place behind the scenes, there are people that aren't necessarily on board or don't agree.
Is that where you think maybe the breaking of the ceasefire came from?
Perhaps. I think so. Either don't agree or trying to add, this last tone of aggression towards Israel. But actually, I think what is more important when we look at the 48 hours of confrontation is two main components. First of all, the fact that Hamas were on the sidelines, I think, is a huge success in itself. And second, on the downside of things, as we have this rogue, relatively small terrorist organization paralyzing half of the country. So you have a terrorist organization in Gaza which is actually stepping up and taking responsibility, on one hand, which could bring promise in the future, and another terrorist organization which is constantly aggravating the situation in so much that it is actually able to paralyze the state of Israel.
Okay, well, but moving forward, how stable or unstable would you categorize the situation right now? And I guess in that same vein, how successful or unsuccessful do you think Operation Black Belt was?
So from what I understand, the reality on the ground is the mission's objectives were achieved. So the military seems to be pleased from the reports that we've seen. Stability in this region is always a questionable thing. It's only one rocket away or one targeted killing away from another round of violence. The reality is one where there are plenty bad guys in this neighborhood, and sometimes Israel needs to act on them in order to prevent them from doing their bad actions. So we have to keep in mind that stability in this region, specifically on the border with Gaza or on the border with Lebanon or on the border with Syria, is, it can happen from one moment to the next. And I think that it's always being on the threshold of crisis, which is what is unique, special, and concerning about Israel. I think what is also special, though, is the ability to turn over and, life just goes on here. Yeah. And so there's the positive side of it. You have this 48 hours of question marks, and then you have a reality where it just goes back to normal and people get on with their life.
Rather quickly, actually.
It's quite strange.
But okay, my final question, I guess, for you then, you talked a little bit about kind of the relationship between Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and how Hamas, oddly, maybe stayed on the sidelines this time around. Do you think that the balance of power in Gaza has shifted at all, maybe even further towards Hamas's favor, or is this really kind of we're back to square one where we were 48 hours ago?
That's always going to be the question, but Hamas have the power to rule the Gaza Strip. They were unable to do it with Baha Abu al-Ata, and that is why I believe that the situation posed an opportunity for them to send a message to all of the rogue factions in the Gaza Strip that this is what happened if you don't step in line to our policy. It doesn't undermine them. I think it strengthens them, which is also, it can be a good thing for Israel. Because Israel
is a lot more manageable and reasonable.
What Israel wants in the Gaza Strip is a responsible authority that is strong enough to manage the Gaza Strip, but not strong enough to threaten Israel's security. That's the balance of power.
All right, well, Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.